back here on the Cover 3 podcast. NFL draft coming up on Thursday night. Dan, you got a lot of draft talk on CBS Sports HQ today?
Oh, yeah. Big day. Big day loaded up today.
Big day. Yeah. How many quarterbacks going round one?
I think 2. Our girl Mackenzie, who we're doing a segment with here right at noon, she says 3 or more. The 2.5 is the number. I hate this quarterback class, and I have a really hard time wrapping my mind around a team reaching on both Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart. I think Cam 1's going 1. I think Shedeur falls to 21 or worse, but I think the Steelers, I think it's a really good fit for Shedeur if he goes to Pittsburgh. I think that's the best case scenario. And I think Jackson Dart goes top of the second round. But I mean, I guess nothing should surprise me with the way teams reach for quarterbacks. I just think this class is very similar to the Kenny Pickett class, when there's not one remaining that's starting. I don't think Cam Ward is the only quarterback I think I would bet would reach a second contract, like that big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the Giants trading back into the late first round to take a QB just to get the 5th-year option.
For like whoever is available at 28.
Yeah, like if they like Dart or whoever's still there and they want to get him, just trade in late in the first, get him, and that way you get that 5th-year option on him, because that's the one difference between the first round and the second round as far as the quarterbacks are concerned. And that 5th-year option to keep him on a rookie deal an extra year could come in handy if he hits.
I think I'm going to take under on this. I'm not really convinced that there are 3 quarterbacks who are first round worthy. Dart did pull out of Green Bay, I read. So maybe he knows something. Now, Milroe's still going, but don't they have players there for the second day and third day now as well?
Yeah, that's why Milroe, I think, is going. That's when everyone was surprised. Couldn't believe he's going. I think that's clearly for the second day.
Plus, I mean, you just kind of want to hang out in Green Bay as long as
possible.
I
was about to say. I covered like maybe 3 or 4 NFL drafts in a row, but it was all the Radio City ones.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have there would be prospects that would not be there, but they'd be having their own draft party elsewhere in Midtown. And then, maybe you'd get them over for media availability if they ended up getting selected.
Where did Levis go?
Tennessee.
First pick in the second round.
Yeah, it's our first pick of the second, I think. Yeah.
So his expected draft position that year was 8.
Right.
Yeah.
If you check out Grinding the Mocks from Ben Robinson, where did Richardson go that year? First round or second?
Who? Anthony Richardson?
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. He was top 5 or 6.
Yeah, he was like 5th.
So he was 11. Hooker was 26. Expected draft position. He went late.
Hooker was like 3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys do drop here for sure. Malik Willis was 22. So his EDP was 17.
He went 3rd.
Second round.
He went 3rd, I think, to the Titans. And I remember people were so adamant about Malik Willis. It was like, well, are they finding character issues? And everyone's like, no, they're just watching the tape and they're realizing maybe he wasn't that good. I actually felt bad because people were suggesting that because they were caught so off guard. It happens all the time. That's why I think Shedeur is one where we've all, referred to him as a top 5 quarterback. And then he comes into the offseason. He's supposed to be a number 1 or 2 over pick. He has the giant shoes. I don't think his tape justifies. It has nothing to do with his attitude, nothing to do with his last name. I don't think his tape justifies him being a top 15 pick. If you said, do you think he goes top 15 or he goes out of the first? I would take out of the first round, top of second, if that was the only 2 options. I think he goes in that middle, to the late end of the first, but I don't think he goes in the top 15.
I heard Field Yates the other day say that he has Shedeur great. If this level, if this Shedeur player was in last year's draft, he'd be the 7th quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That's the case. I think there's a real chance all these QBs kind of fall. If you look at what happened in 22, the Malik Willis class, EDP 17th, went 3rd round. Kenny Pickett, EDP 19. Okay, that's about spot on.
He was the only first rounder that year.
Desmond Ridder had an EDP of a first round, but barely, and went 2nd round. Sam Howell, EDP of 40th, and slipped to the 3rd round. Matt Corral, same thing, like slipped more than a round. So I think the narrative that these quarterbacks get pushed up, I don't think they're getting more pushed up and it's already reflected in some of these mock drafts. I think the mock drafts push them up already.
Do you is Kenz's argument from the betting angle? Like, is she coming in just saying that like there's value in the 3+?
She's taking over. The question is it over or under 2.5? We haven't. I don't know what angle she's going to take.
Do
I mean,
you
there is
believe-
like the Saints need a quarterback. So like the Saints are the other, pick that everyone's kind of like is because it's the Titans, Saints, and Steelers that need quarterback. But a lot of people are like, why wouldn't the Saints just wait till the second round when you could probably get Jackson Dart, who they apparently like a lot? But you run the risk of losing him. But there's just not a lot of teams there that need a quarterback that you have to worry about.
Do y'all either put any credence in or enjoy dabbling with draft betting?
I have in the past.
It was way better during COVID.
There's a prop that both Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders will be Cleveland Browns.
Ooh.
My understanding is that at the start of the week, it was plus 1,200, and that thing has been banged down to like 275. So that would be what Browns, Hunter, then Browns jump back in.
Trade and draft Shedeur.
And get Shedeur?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Hunter to Cleveland is damn near a lock.
Yeah.
And they'd be crazy if they don't.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It does kind of suck, like for us as viewers.
Why?
Right? Because Cleveland sucks and has terrible weather. And like, I want to see Travis Hunter.
But he's going to be having a former Super Bowl champion throwing.
They've got Joe Flacco throwing to him now.
Yeah. I mean, he's got
Jameis.
Super Bowl champ. That's
No, Jameis is in New York.
New York.
All right. Pick the places that you would less like to see Travis Hunter go than Cleveland. Because it's a pretty short list, right? Carolina. Oh, better weather.
Yeah, he would rather. I was going to say Arizona. I love Arizona.
It's a dome, and you can live in Arizona.
Yeah, but
no, I know, but I'm saying from a fan perspective.
Kyler Murray's throwing the ball. It's a fun offense.
I would hate to see
him there.
I would hate to see Travis Hunter go to Minnesota, Detroit, or Green Bay.
Those all the division rivals.
Yeah.
That's places I would hate to see him go. I would love him in
Jacksonville. There was talk to Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville.
Well, at least he'd have Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball.
Right.
Is Jacksonville a better franchise than Cleveland?
Both towards the bottom.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel with kinda. I think their owner is more helpful, if not more apt.
If the Browns select both Travis and Shedeur, are we a Cleveland Browns podcast?
No.
Oh, yeah. Are they going to play any pass defense, by the way, in Cleveland? They already have a lot of money spent on receivers, don't they? And they've already said Travis is going to play.
No, like Jerry Judy's like their best receiver. They've got a ton of money still wound up in Deshaun.
I thought they had a lot of money in receiver. I was looking, I was like, these are all names I know, so they probably weren't cheap. Or maybe they are cheap because I know them and they're so old.
Yeah, I think that might be where we're at. All right, what about who do you think is going to be a player that a team is going to reach for?
I know who a team is reaching for.
Is it one of the quarterbacks that we've just talked about?
Everybody knows who this. Yeah, it's the first pick of the draft.
Cam Ward?
Yeah. You talked about how, or Danny, you mentioned Shedeur would be the 7th best QB in the class last year. Cam Ward would have been 5th.
Yeah.
And this isn't a knock saying Cam Ward can't become a very good quarterback. None of that. We don't know. But I'm going to read off in the BCS era a list of quarterbacks that went 1-1 overall. And while I'm doing it, I want you to keep in mind guys that you would rank behind Cam Ward as a prospect.
Okay.
Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Sam Bradford, Matt Stafford, Jamarcus Russell, Alex Smith, Eli Manning, Carson Palmer, David Carr, Mike Vick, Tim Couch, Peyton Manning. How many of those guys would you have Cam Ward over as a prospect? Forget how they performed in the NFL, but just who they were coming out of college.
I don't remember breaking down like prospect level analysis. I think I'd probably go 4 of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Probably I would have him over Bryce Young and Jared Goff.
Really?
Would you have had Tim Couch ahead of him? I'd go Ward.
Yeah,
Well,
I
after
liked
realizing
Goff a
they
lot
asked Tim
coming out
Couch
of
to hold the
college.
football differently,
Yeah.
I'd probably have Cam Ward over Tim Couch, but at the time, nobody was really throwing the football like that in college football, so he was kind of revolutionary. Would you have him over Kyler Murray? I think so
just because of the size.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Is that why you would have him over Bryce Young too?
for sure. Yeah, Bryce to me was very college skill set, less NFL skill set. I mean, I still thought he'd be fine, but which I guess he kind of is now. Is fine-ish.
Don't quit on him, bud. Bryce can find it.
Still real to me, damn it.
Yeah.
Probably over Baker.
See, I'd had Baker over Cam.
See, I think Chris
I'd have had Cam over Bradford.
Like Cam Ward's a gun for hire. You don't build a team around that. Everything out of Miami was super positive about his leadership.
Yep.
So I don't think that's necessarily true. And it's not like he's been a guy who's been a spoiled prima donna, if you want to go that narrative. Like he played for a wing T offense in like middle of nowhere, Texas, and wasn't recruited at all. He had to work his way up. I mean, he got paid huge, but he worked for it. So I don't think this like hired gun narrative holds up with him.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, the only guys I feel like I would certainly have Cam Ward over here are Bryce, Kyler, and Sam Bradford. David Carr, I didn't really watch in college enough to be able to have an actual opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna. Cars. Those too early. And I wasn't doing prospect breakdowns at that point. So I'd agree with that. All right, who's a sleeper? Who's someone who's going to fall in this draft and you think is going to end up being the guy that when you're watching on Thursday night or Friday, guys are messing up.
I have 2 receivers and 1 quarterback. My receivers I'll start with. Jalen Noel out of Iowa State, to me, is Julian Edelman if Julian Edelman could run a 4.3. So, like, he could do all the underneath stuff that Julian Edelman does. And he's got very good stop and start and change of direction. But he can also just run right past you, which is not what Julian Edelman, I don't think, was really ever able to do.
He was on your nuclear rate chart, right?
Yeah, but just as a prospect, yes.
Right.
I just that's who he reminds me of. He's like Julian Edelman if Julian Edelman was a track star. And then finally, here's a comp for you. Did you think Santonio Holmes was a good NFL player?
Yes.
What if I told you could draft Santonio Holmes in like the 4th or 5th round? Because if you draft Jalen Lane out of Virginia Tech, that's who you're getting, Santonio Holmes.
Interesting.
And then finally, at quarterback, one of the lower names on my board, but just based on potential. Because if you're going to draft a quarterback in the NFL, you should probably draft the guy you think could be good enough one day to actually beat Patrick Mahomes, not the guy who could beat Kirk Cousins. Jalen Milroe. Do I think it'll happen? No. Is there the potential for it? Yes.
I'm going to go Tyler Booker.
Nasty offense. I mean, just I
think like teams know what he is and what he isn't. And so I'm assuming that the team that picks him will be like, yeah, we like him because he's actually a fit for what we do, which is probably more, of a down man blocking scheme, not asking this guy to get out and move a whole lot. I think he'll be a good fit in that system. Like he's not a great athlete, but he is a really good player. That'd be one. It's a Florida State guy. I could see AZ Thomas doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Just good habits.
Cornerback. Yeah.
Professional approach, in like I think we saw in Tallahassee last year when the rest of the season was falling apart. Like, he kind of still handled his business. So that to me is encouraging. Who else? I like Tyleik Williams. I think he's a good player. Like that could be a guy that's not first round, but it's like
a solid rotational kind of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like an Eagles player.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
But he is probably that's going to be the great pivot. Eagles are going to go from drafting all the Georgia players to drafting Ohio State players. It's only national champions.
But that, to me, and this is just my opinion, but it's opinion I think shared by a lot of people, is that in this draft in particular, they're really, outside of Travis Hunter, and Abdul Carter maybe. And even then, I think Abdul Carter is one of the best players in this draft. I don't know if he's going to be an all-time great at the position. But I would say Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty. There really isn't a star at their position in this draft. I think that you are hoping to find guys who are solid NFL players, who can be a starter. Maybe not a great starter, but just a guy who can start for you for 4 or 5, 6 years.
Michael Kay, who covers the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer, I was listening to him talk on the Ovius and Giglio podcast, and he was calling it a starter draft. That it is a draft of starters. You don't have we don't have a lot of gold jackets coming to this crew, right? It is just some quality starters. And that's probably why that's probably why it's not like rocking everyone's world in terms of the run up to this draft. There's not sort of, even from inside the buildings of all the NFL franchises, they're like, okay, all right, this is a throwback draft when they just did them in hotel rooms with punch cards and like didn't even put it on TV. Just gave the newspapermen the list once it was all said and done. This is a very, unless we get some crazy trades or Roger Goodell, let me put on my conspiracy hat. Roger Goodell presses the button for there to be some drama. Unless we get a gas mask that pops up, on draft night. Seems to be a very much going about your business kind of NFL draft.
And that's the thing, like, as far as trades, like, who's somebody trading up for?
Right.
Like, maybe somebody trades up for Ashton Jeanty. Like, if he kind of starts sliding past number 5 or 6, maybe somebody becomes, which would be kind of anti the way NFL front offices have gone as far as the analytics are concerned, but it also speaks to the players that are in this draft.
Yep. Final thoughts, bud? Oh.
The Will Johnson comment in the comment section is interesting. In the tailgate's interesting. So Will Johnson's absolutely a star, but he got injured. Might have been the first overall pick as he was healthy. The thing is, Will Johnson never ran a 40 as a recruit, and Will Johnson never ran anything like in the pre-draft testing, right? So we have no idea if this guy can run. I think that's largely like why some guys were rated ahead of him as a recruit. Because if you have a verified time on a kid, that's a really good time versus another kid who refuses to run or won't run or whatever. It kind of makes sense, right? Like you're going to go with the guy who you know is actually fast. And if Johnson drops, it's probably going to be because of that, because teams are like, we just don't know how fast he is.
Yeah. I when you watch Will Johnson tape, like, if he's playing in a zone heavy scheme, he's going to be very good at the NFL level. It's when he gets in, when you put him in man is when you start seeing some flaws, but in zone, he's incredible.
See, I have seen him run. Man ran back
on pick sixes.
Yeah, man was out. He had more touchdowns than Michigan's offense, I felt like, there for a little bit at the beginning of the season, but I understand your point. It'll be, that's definitely probably what a fit thing. Needs to go to the right team, right defense, right scheme.
I think like the Saints would be a very good defense for him.
Yep. All right. Thursday, tomorrow, time for your questions, our answers. Maybe they are continuing the NFL draft conversation. We didn't get a chance to hit everything, so maybe you want to direct us in a certain place, certain talking point around the NFL draft, which is coming up on Thursday. We can do that day of 11 a.m. on Thursday. We also have questions from the big old bag of mail, including who are the top coaches at jobs where national title is not the expectation. So I'll let that rattle around your brain for a little bit. Of course, that means we would have to define the line in the sand of where does a job where national title is or isn't, but still something fun to be able to discuss, especially with our coach rankings coming up next month. So come and hang out, get those questions into the tailgate early. We'll get those right off the rip once the show gets started.